So anyway, this is a brand new prospect. I'm walking right up the sidewalk. I knock on the door. The door opens up, and it's a guy. And he says, "So you're Pete Ramsey?" And I said, "Yes, sir." And he says, "Mrs. Larsen recommended you." Well, the blood runs out of my face. This lady hates me. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I doing here? Welcome to HVAC Greatness, your weekly source for HVAC business excellence. By subscribing and tuning in here, you'll get insider access to proven strategies, tips, and insights for the HVAC business owner who's tired of the stress and frustrations and struggles that are common to HVAC. Let's redesign your new, highly organized, and hugely profitable HVAC business where being an owner is fun again. So yeah, Mrs. Larsen was the lady that had called me out years ago, and I had gone to her house and I took care of her, and she complained and she whined and she attacked and she was, just always on my rear. Then she called me out for another job. She had some rental properties and then another, but the lady was always on my backside. I thought she hated me, and so there I am standing in front of this guy. She had recommended me, and the next words out of his mouth after Mrs. Larsen had recommended you was, "I don't know what you do, but she worships the ground you walk in." And I'm like, what the heck? I couldn't believe it, right? So anyway, it just goes to show you really don't understand. I mean, you think you understand people, but sometimes we really don't, right? We think it's about the technical work that we do. We think it's about, a proper charge of a system, proper airflow, properly cleaning the coils and setting the system up, and using proper materials and tools and equipment and supply. All these different things that we're really, really good at, but that's not what makes our business grow. It's important, and I'll never discard that, and I don't want you to either. We need to keep training and teaching our employees on being the very best that we can, but at the end of the day, it's not about the perfect work that makes your business successful. It's not about the best advertising. It's not even about aligning perfectly with KPIs. I just mentioned three things probably in order that are increasingly more important. But if you really want to grow your business, it's about how you make your customer feel. It's about that warm and fuzzy. So here on podcast number 002, we're going to call this warm and fuzzy. This is leg number one of our three-legged stool that will make you really grow and really popular among your customer base. This is where the rubber meets the road. There's not a KPI for this one. This is where you set yourself apart from your competition. Okay, as many of you guys know, HVAC Greatness, the podcast, is part of what I do. The other part is I train HVAC contractors. And one of my favorite groups are those of you who you come from the technical background, you come from the mechanical background, you don't have a degree in business, you don't understand some of the KPIs to the extent that you should, and we're all on our journey to improving ourselves, but you come in with a clean slate. A lot of times some of the customers that I work with, they have their degrees and they have their textbook knowledge, but they don't have that real world experience. And they get this. They get this because let's talk about the trade school. Let's talk about how you feel. You're going through and you're pulling your first vacuum on a system, or you're soldering in your first compressor, or you know what I'm saying? You're doing all these different things in the school, and then you get out in the real world. Is it not humbling? Where did you learn the most? Where was your learning accelerated? Where did you take your knowledge and experience to the next level? It's in the real world. I'll tell you a quick story. My father, who passed away last year, was a brilliant man. He did not go to university, but he read constantly. But most importantly, he got out there and he did things. And he was an amateur chemist. And he sent me an email one time from this guy. He had more titles after his name, PhD of this and PhD of that. This guy had studied more in the university than most people ever will. And he's going to my dad asking his advice because he understood there's no class in the university that can match real world experience. And he became a source of advice to this person that was invaluable. And I think that that's the same is true in most parts of life. So let's talk about that just a little bit. Back in the 90s, there was a group, and many of you may be too young to remember this, but they were called Consolidators. And what they did is they went around looking at air conditioning companies in different major cities, and they looked at their numbers and they began to buy them. And they would take these different companies and they would put them under one umbrella name. And there's still some of these companies in business today, but for the vast majority of them, they began to buy up these companies and unify them and put everybody on the same system. They started unifying the accounting and their marketing efforts, and these were business professionals. They ran these businesses with solid margins and all these great KPIs, and they were part of the KPI movement back at that time. But here's the interesting thing. Most of them never made it. They failed. Even the ones that are in business today, they closed operations here and there, and they said, well, they're not meeting the margins that we need. Okay, so but the point is, that part is very important. We need to understand the business aspect. We need to understand, how our numbers work. We need to understand, how to effectively advertise and how to do all of these different things. That there's a language that's been developed in our industry, and there's been a whole new set of what they call a chart of accounts that's been established, and there's been all these great improvements, but they had to go through that pain first. But the point is, and what was really brought home is business understanding your numbers and understanding the accounting and understanding your costs and understanding all these variables that are key to your success are not what makes you grow. They're not what makes Mrs. Jones call you back. So let's talk about Mrs. Jones. Imagine a little old lady. I want you to step outside of your world, because I really think that we get caught up between our own ears here, and we get stuck in this way of thinking, and we think we know, but we don't. So humble yourself for me just for a moment. You think you know your customer. You think they love you, but they don't. Now here's my example. Little old lady, Mrs. Jones. Her air conditioner has gone out. She does not have a relationship with anybody. She goes to the yellow pages because she's old and she doesn't use the internet, whatever. Maybe she uses the internet. She calls you, and you come to her door, and you knock at her door. Now, as she's opening up her door to you, she is terrified. She's about to invite some man into her home. I mean, your home is your place of refuge. This is the place where she's safe. This is the place where the world can't get to her and can't hurt her. Is this person going to come into my house? She's thinking, is this person going to come into my house and case the place and come back and rob me later and look at the flaws in my security and my windows? And I mean, these are the type of things that are going through her head while you don't have a clue, because you're thinking about HVAC. You're thinking, show me the air handler. Show me the condenser. So that's what she's thinking. So something happens. If you do this right, something is going to happen. At first, she's terrified. She doesn't have a relationship with you. She doesn't know you. But you do certain things right. You are aware that she's uncomfortable, and you start to say and do things that make her comfortable. And before you know it, before she knows it, this interaction, this exercise interacting with somebody that she doesn't know has resulted in a relationship that didn't exist. And now all of a sudden she becomes a little more comfortable and she begins to open up, and you begin to reward her for opening up and taking care of her insecurities, taking care of her challenges or problems, and explaining things in a way that she can understand. You slow down and you do a really good job. Now, I'm speaking generally here, right? So what happens eventually? She calls you back. She gets another experience. She goes from being totally insecure, and then she transitions into being comfortable, and now she transitions into being almost dependent. She doesn't have this with anybody else. She needs to call you. She needs to depend on you because you're the only one she can trust. She knows you're not casing her place to come back and rob her. She knows you're a real person, and you remind her of her grandson or whomever. But the point is, you're a real person. You've made a real connection, and now you have a relationship. This is what we need to understand, because there is a little old lady inside of all of us. Yeah, even the big burly guy that answers the door. Come on in, I'll show you where the furnace is, right? On some level, he's saying, can I trust this guy? We all have insecurities, right? So the more that we understand this concept, the more successful we're going to be at building a following, at building a loyalty. And we do this through what I refer to as warm and fuzzies. Now, every word, every action, every look and gaze that you give towards your customer, that is a cause, and it has an effect. Cause and effect. So what is the effect that you're having on your client? And I'm here to tell you, some of them are good, naturally, because you've got a personality, right? Some of them are kind of neutral. It doesn't mean anything. But some of them are not good. They work against you. So what happens? We have the good, we have the bad, and it weighs out, and you're left with a general impression. So while you think your customer loves you, while you think everything that you said they got, while you think that these people will be calling you back, you are wrong. They may love you. More than likely, they like you. They smile at you and they say all the things that support the idea that maybe they love you. But in reality, that's their personality, and they've learned, if I'm going to get good service, I need to be friendly to this guy and hurry up and get him out of my house. These are the things that happen, and you'll never know it. This is why it's so important to look at the steps that you're taking, the personality that you're projecting, that you assume is right, and always question it and always be ready to adjust it. So it's never what you think. It's never what you think you know. The more you think you know, the more hopelessly you will be lost. And you're just going to turn customers off, and you'll never even know it. Okay? So you have to humble yourself and be willing to adjust accordingly. So here's the things. All these things that you so eloquently explained and everything else, they're going to be forgotten. In a matter of days, in a matter of sometimes hours, everything that you said will be forgotten. Much of what you did while you were there will be forgotten. But the one aspect of your interaction with your customer that will not be forgotten is the way that you made them feel. The key to your business in growing a loyal customer base that gives you referrals, that gives you continued business, that gives you growth in every aspect of your business is the warm and fuzzy. Okay, so now we're going to be talking about the next level, the next leg of this three-legged stool on the next podcast, number 003. This will be leg number 2. So we've talked about the warm and fuzzy. It's not about the equipment. It's not about how good of a job you do there. In fact, you can make mistakes, as long as you come back and take care of them. It's not about your advertising, that's important. It's not about your KPIs, that's very important. But if you really want to grow your business, it's about the warm and fuzzy. So on the next leg, we're going to go into the next level to that. I'm hoping you're going to tune in and follow me on this, because if you get these 3 things right and you start to implement them on your business, you're going to start passing your competitors who understand business way more than you do, who market way more effectively than you do. But they won't get the referrals that you get. They won't have the loyalty that you have, at least not to the degree that you are enjoying. Okay, so that's the bottom line. So as we move into leg number 2 on the stool, on the 3-legged stool, we're going to take it to the next level. So this is Pete Ramsey here, signing out. HVAC Greatness. I'll see you on the next one. Hey, it's Pete. A quick thank you for joining me today on HVAC Greatness, or maybe just letting me keep you company as you're out running about. Either way, I sincerely hope that you picked up on something today that might help you and your business progress on your journey to HVAC Greatness. Want more? Make sure we stay on the air. Share the podcast with a friend. Rate and review it. Be sure to subscribe to our email list at hvacgreatness.com so that you don't miss anything. This is Pete Ramsey signing out and reminding you why your customers love your business and what makes your company great. In one word, you. So let's keep refining your already good image and make it truly great.